Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thirsty Thursday edition of The Rundown. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coastest with the mostest. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right, you don't. My name is Mike Pikowowski. I come to you from the East Coast, from the right coast, and I will be your co-host for today.
Excellent. So now, folks, for those of you who do not know, as you notice, if you've listened to this program more than once, you'll notice that Mike often mispronounces his own name. And I thought, Mike, you might want to share with some of our newer listeners why that is.
No, that's not me mispronouncing my name. That's just me pronouncing my name how somebody else has pronounced it to me within the past 24 hours.
See, all one has to do, and here, I'll pull this thing up. If you look right there, you can see that Mike's name is, it's a spelling thing. You know what I mean?
You have to take a moment. You have to put some effort into it, and then throw in that different family members pronounce it differently. I listen. If you get most of the letters in there and you say it, I'm going to say, "Oh, that's right, that's great." But I'll get stuff like, "Hey, Mike Polnicek." Like, what? How is that even Polnicek? Or Wazowski? No, not even close. People come up to you and go, "I knew a guy named Norchek once," and you're like, and how's that help
where did that come from?
Yeah, how's that help me?
Well, see, I know there's a P. All you have to do is I know there's a P and there's a W and there's an R. And the rest of it you can pretty much just jumble together and throw in, and most people will not recognize that your name is misspelled.
It's very true. Listen, my name has a wow in it. There's war in it. There's also beer in it, and there's lots of skiing and lots of fun. So
lots of skiing, lots of fun. But that's how we roll on Thirsty Thursday.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah, yep. Some war beer skis. Yeah, there we go.
Right.
Good stuff. Good stuff. How was your hump day, sir? How'd that work out for you?
You know what? It was nice. The weather was kind of nice out here.
Yeah.
It was a little cooler yesterday. Not so much cool, but it was a nice, how shall we say, fall day. You know, it was probably in the 80s, so it was very, very comfortable. Nice little breeze. Hung out on the back patio, which we just got redone or just redid. Just all around nice day.
Very good. Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, we had a little bit cooler day, a little bit rainy day, but a good day actually a good day to go flying, to stay out of the heat. So we had a good day here as well yesterday.
You know, it's funny. I wanted to tell you, so yesterday I was trying out, and when I wasn't trying out, I've had it before. You know, every once in a while you see those bottles of bourbon that have like kind of the gimmicky names, and you're like, okay, you get it because you're like, okay, the bottle is kind of cool and the name is kind of cool, and you may or may not taste good, but it's actually the Hatfield and McCoy bourbon. I actually tried it, and gotta say I kind of like it.
I picked up one about 2-3 weeks ago, and the name of the bourbon was Earl Settlers. So Earl, the name Earl, and my co-host from the radio show is Earl,
right?
And it's Settlers. It's just like I said, it's like settlers.
Right. So
I picked it up and got it for his wife and gave it to her. And I said, well, you're obviously an Earl settler also.
You settle for Earl. So this is for you.
There you go. She was like, well, thank you. I didn't know there was more than one of us, but thank you.
Well, apparently there's enough to at least sell it.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, let's go ahead and let's get into today's news. So this story here is really kind of it's close to me because the Thomas School District is like right there. It's like it's a stone's throw that way. Natomas is a place where people in my neighborhood say their house is located when they're trying to sell it.
Right.
Right. So, makes it worth a little bit more. Anyway, there's a teacher there at Indocom High School in Natomas, who has decided that he is going to spend his time working to try and indoctrinate students. And not just indoctrinate them into the democratic way of thinking or liberal way of thinking, but he actually has an ANTIFA flag posted up in his classroom, right? He actually talks about, and this is an undercover video. I'm pretty sure everyone who watches this show has probably seen this undercover video that Project Veritas just released where he's basically talking with a guy and telling him, look, I have 180 days to turn students into revolutionaries. How he gives them extra credit, gives them extra class credit for attending protests, for showing up at what they call tablings, which is basically about shutting down like board meetings and stuff like that, or anytime there's a conservative speaker, any of that. This thing just literally exploded. And I know a number of the board members who are on that school board. And last night they had a meeting and people were pissed, as I'm sure you can understand, Mike.
Yeah, listen, I watched or I read the article, right? And it's I know it's big news over there. It's starting to get over here. Well, news travels, takes a little while to get cross country unless the president screwed the pooch. So we're starting to get up to speed on this one over here. And I was like, oh well, you know what? Let me watch this video. Maybe it's an overreaction. Perhaps this teacher's just really engaged with his students and giving them. Listen, we're gonna have one side of the story say this and one side of the room say that. Trying to get genuine discourse back and forth amongst the students. And moments into the video, you're like, oh no, this guy's an Antifa crackpot. There's no, he's not in there trying to to develop thoughts and processes in these kids' head. He's a genuine Antifa crackpot. And how long's he been teaching there, Craig? How long's he been he been tricking these people and these students?
Oh, he's been there for 3 years. But the thing I thought that was very interesting was he noted he's not the only one, and he knows at least 3 teachers that are there at the school where he teaches that are like him, that think like him, and that do the exact same stuff. And we all know that these teachers exist throughout our public education process. And there was another thing that really kind of got me with this whole thing. And I know that, there were a number of people who were there who showed up, who were angry, were frustrated at the school board meeting last night. But here's the thing that gets me. And I'm a school board member, right?
Yes.
What I'll say is this, is that just because you turn your kids over to the public schools or to whatever school, public, private, charter, I don't care what it is, you are the primary educator of your children. If you don't know what your children are learning in class, I put that on you. Because it's your responsibility to know. Just like it's your responsibility. You need to know what they're watching on TV. You need to know what video games they're playing. You need to know who is influencing your kids and how they're influencing your kids. So if you don't know, perhaps maybe you should rethink your priorities as a parent. I know, I'm not blaming parents for this, but I'm saying that parents should know.
I think I might have a solution to all this, Craig. The school board district that you're in, what's the name of that school board district?
Robla.
What is it?
Robla School District.
Is that a town name or a county name also?
No, it's part of it's a neighborhood that is in Sacramento.
Okay. This Natomas, is that a county name or a city name?
That is also a neighborhood within the city of Sacramento.
The Inderkum? What is the Inderkum? What does that mean?
Inderkum, I don't know where that name comes from, but it's a name of a high school.
Okay. There's the problem right there. All right. The rest of the country, we've got Jefferson High School District, part of the Washington County High School Association. That's it. We don't have any. Well, you got a unified school district up there, like you're dealing with some off-world stuff. Also, what is you guys got to get real. You got to have county names and city names, and that's it.
Well, they're called a unified. Well, first of all, we don't want the city to be in charge of our schools, like in some places, like in New York or whatnot. We don't want the city.
Agreed.
We don't want exactly. So number one, we don't want that.
I don't want that at all. But what I'm saying is Sacramento, like a unified Sacramento.
School, we have a Sacramento City Unified School District, and we don't want to be a part of that because first of all, it's too big. Secondly, it's controlled by left-wing wackos, and basically, it's controlled by the teachers union. Robla, we have our school district because we don't want to be a part of all that.
And all right, listen, I'll give way to that. If you don't want to be part of the bigger one, you can be part of a smaller one. Right. But make it a word or a name that other people outside of the 10 miles you live in have heard of. Let's give it a little distinctive. All right, listen, this is the Washington School District. Oh, that's a good name. That's a good name right there. Let's go for it. As opposed to
there's already a Washington School District in the area.
Well, then we'll go with the Jefferson School District or the Lincoln School District. We got plenty of presidents we can name it after.
Right. Well, I'm more in favor of naming it after the community where it's in because it at least gives you an idea of where it is. And by the way, unified school district basically means that it's a K through 12, as opposed to, say, for example, an elementary school district, which would be K through 6, or a high school district, which would generally be 7th through 12th. So unified just means it's K through 12.
Which makes sense. I'm just saying, listen, when us East Coasters read your West Coast stories, we need a legend of the terms you're using, right? Because none of it makes sense to us. We're like, the what? The unified, the Robla Natoma Intercooms? The what? I have no idea what he's talking
the
about.
Robla Natoma Intercum what?
No idea what he's talking about.
But what gets me, once again, I will just say this. I'll end with this. At a school board meeting, I've come to realize that the only time we see parents at school board meetings is if we are honoring their child,
Right.
or if they're pissed.
Yeah. And
how about you show up sometime in between then?
Of course.
Let us know what you think. Let us know what's going on. What do you
be involved? Be involved all the time. And listen, I absolutely agree with you on this story. This guy's Antifa trash, needs to be gone. And pat on the back to whatever the school board district name is that's getting rid of him. So. Nice to see a little pro action, positive action towards the raising of our youth there.
Well, exactly. And I know people were upset that he wasn't like fired like as soon as the story came out. But I got to tell you, number one, you have to understand when you're a public entity, in particular when you're dealing with unions, there's certain steps you have to take, and they as a board actually have to meet, and they can't, by the way, talk about personnel stuff out in the public until once a decision's been made, then they can let you know what that particular decision is. And yesterday the decision was made to put the teacher on, he was already on paid administrative leave. They put him on paid administrative leave, and they're basically now in the process of putting him on unpaid administrative leave, which means firing him. But there's a process that they have to go through. Even if they agree 100% that dude needs to go, there's a process. And, if you don't like the process, then maybe you need to rethink the politicians that you send to Sacramento, because they're the ones that keep this process in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Due diligence, do your due process, follow your procedures and go. I'm sure there's also a process in place. If this guy had been accused of touching a kid or something sexual, he would have been gone that day, as opposed to waiting for this to go on. There's different policies and different procedures for each thing. And it sounds like they responded appropriately, and good for them.
Right. And that's, by the way, and just so people know, it's also not about like, oh, well, we're worried about being penalized. If you don't do the process right, then you can't fire the teacher. They'll come back, they'll sue, and they'll win.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, this teacher who needs to be fired will still be teaching in the district. So they got to handle it right. And so far, they're doing it as expediently as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So hats off to them for that.
So. Yep.
Okay. Now, okay, this is one that got me. When I have here UTLA, that's the United Teachers of Los Angeles. This is the teachers union for Los Angeles Unified School District. I believe the largest school district in the country. This teacher has come out. There's a recall election going on here in California. And these folks have decided that they are, the teaching is not that important, that they decided to come out and blast. Gavin Newsom because he's now letting students back in class. And the interesting thing is that they've been pushing, and Mike, they are pushing big time to close the classrooms again down there in Los Angeles. And by the way, they're not just interested in doing it because of COVID. They want to shut down the classrooms because they believe we have issues like racism that we need to deal with, and critical race theory, and what we're teaching about ethnic studies and police brutality. Because of all of these issues, the folks over there, the teachers union president there in Los Angeles, wants to shut down the classrooms again.
Yeah, this director, this union head there, she has said some incredibly disturbing things for somebody that's the head of a union. She does not want the children to return to schools, and like you just alluded to, Craig, it might have started with a little bit to do with COVID, but then it became her political goal to keep them out of the schools so she could get all of her other agenda in there. She's come out clearly said that there has been no effect on the students whatsoever. having missed a year, 2 years in school, that they've learned. They may have not learned their math tables, but they've learned other things like resilience and resourcefulness. Like, well, that's great until you got to balance a checkbook, and you could be as resilient as you want. If the numbers don't add up, you ain't got no money. So that's to hear her say these things and watch this fight between her and Newsom is just another reason I'm glad I'm in one of the other 49 states.
Oh, dude, yeah. Sir, this woman's name is Cicely Mayart Cruz, right? She said,
Yes.
first of all, she doesn't believe there's any such thing as quote unquote learning loss. I can tell you as a school board member, we've looked at the data, we've looked at the testing that we've done of our students, and I can tell you most definitely there is a learning loss. And when I say a learning loss, I'm not just talking about how students have not progressed. In some cases, in many cases, students regressed during this time, meaning some of the stuff that they knew when this whole thing started, they don't even know.
Right, right.
You know, they basically said, yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking at some of these comments where she said, no, once again, it's not a thing. They haven't lost. It is basically, once again, the goal is now to utilize and hold our children hostage. And that's literally what she wants to do. In order to get a certain political gain, that her goal is to hold our kids hostage.
Yep. By the way, the Los Angeles Unified School District, the second largest in the country, behind New York City and just in front of Chicago. I have to be sitting in the number 9th if anybody's keeping score. So.
So keep in mind the number of kids that are coming out of this particular school district who literally have spent the last year and a half not learning.
I'll give you that number. That number is 633,621. Over 500,000 kids right there having to deal with that nonsense.
Right. Having to deal with teachers like that. And you know, Mike, that's the reason why when we go back to I'm a big fan of smaller school districts. And the reason why is like we're a small school district.
Right.
I know when we make a policy, it's implemented. We see the direct effect because guess what? We run into the kids' parents at the grocery store. They know where I live. You know, it's real easy for them to call me, email me. It's easy for us to be in contact and communicate. So there's not a whole lot of levels of administration and politics between the parents, the students, and between the policymakers.
Right.
And, when you have a district that is this big and this large, what winds up happening is it becomes all about the politics. And the group, in this case, the union, is all about the overall political goals and gains, not about what the union is supposed to be about, which is protecting the rights and salary and creating the best possible environment to teach kids.
Yeah. Yeah, this has nothing to do with the kids anymore when it's that large. I mean, at some point it does on the teacher level, the teacher-student level, maybe at the individual school level, but not for people like these union heads or these people even on the school boards, Craig. This is now political jobs and oppositions, and like we see right here going on, this has lost everything to do with the children and has become a political agenda fight.
Yeah, and that is unfortunate because once again, in the end, those who are hurt are our kids.
That's right. That's right. And we all know that the children are our future.
Teach them well.
Treat them well.
but let's just be real. That whole let them lead the way.
Yep.
No, let them follow for a while and watch us mess up so that they can learn what not to do.
That's what it's for, right? That's what school is for. All right, listen, that's give you a little try, give you a little projects here. Oh, listen, this is good, except you burnt down the school. See, we're gonna try this again now.
Right.
We want results without torching. That's just so
good deal. Good deal.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along. It's funny. We have the three branches of government, right? We have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have the judicial. And we all know that laws are supposed to be written in the legislative branch. That's how you implement public policy. But something that we're starting to see more and more often is whether it's not just the media, but we're starting to actually see corporate America starting to utilize its power, its economic power, its financial power in order to start to implement and force policy on the public. And
Yep.
The greatest area where we're starting to see that right now has to do with the Second Amendment. And there was an article that was in the Federalist that was talking about how Democrats are using economic chokeholds against the Second Amendment rights of citizens, against many of their customers.
Yeah, listen. This is not new. This is now refined. I can remember this going back, 5 and 10 years when Operation Choke Point came out under Obama, and that was, I remember, if that was correctly, that was broke by, I think it was Chris Swainhart over at Gun Stuff TV. He did a big expose on it, and this was when you had under the Obama administration, they had something called Operation Choke Point, and that was to restrict the banking of firearms industry. Now, it also dipped into, if I recall, the adult film industry, the alcohol, and tobacco as well, which were all four seen as bad morals for adults. So I don't know how the Second Amendment became a bad moral stand, but under leadership there under Operation Choke Point was to do that, and that was laying on big businesses. Craig, that was the government laying on big businesses, and that were part of their financial support team, and stopped the banking, stopped accepting their funds, stopped dealing with them, stopped giving them insurance, anything that they could lean on that was big industry that the former Democratic President Obama had in place at his opportunity, he used. And now, guess what? Obama Part 2, right? We're seeing it again.
Well, exactly. And Mike, this goes back to the very definition of fascism. A lot of people want to think that fascism is a conservative thing, and the reality is most fascism is implemented by liberals, by Democrats, or not by Democrats, by liberals, by socialists, because the idea is to partner with, either control or convince or cajole those who are control the economic purses, in this particular case, corporations, right, to get them to help push the political or the policy line that you're trying to get them to push. And I believe that the whole thing with the alcohol and the pornography was the camel's nose under the tent, because once again, these are things that have guidelines but are legal in the United States. You don't have to like them, you don't have to agree with them, but they are things that are legal here in the United States. But once they start to get the corporations to control that and limit access to that by limiting the financial access to it, then they can start to implement other things. And we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see that with free speech, right? Shutting down of Parler, right? The social media service, right? Shutting down of or locking people out of their Twitter accounts or their Facebook accounts. That's another example. And we're seeing the exact same thing happening with the Second Amendment. Once again, once it becomes disfavorable, now all of a sudden corporations can start to limit people's access to it.
Yeah, and again, exactly what we've seen, exactly what's going on, and not even sure, Craig. Listen, how to combat this when the current administration, has controls over these entities. It looks like banks. Listen, they have the SES, that they control them over, right? Excuse me, the SEC that they control them with, the IRS that they control them with. How do you go to the bank and say, how do I, as the individual, go to the bank and say, well, listen, I'm not giving you my money anymore because you don't support Second Amendment rights? Their response is going to be, yeah, I don't care. They're ready to take away our federal charter. It's your couple $1,000 mean nothing to me compared to my couple $1 billion I've got in the bank. So it's one of those, long-term effects of, elections have consequences, and this is what you see.
Oh yeah, and but I also think that that's why the advent or the invention of things like cryptocurrency. This is what is going to give cryptocurrency more life, because what's happening is, as they start to limit banking access to this stuff, people are going to start to look at other ways in which they can engage in commerce. And cryptocurrency is proving that it's not going away anytime soon. It may not necessarily be as stable as regular money, but in the end, I think you're going to start to see a lot of financial transactions. That's what they're really doing. They're pushing people that direction.
Yeah, alternative means, I'll say that for sure. Cryptocurrency, I'm not sure you're going to get anybody below the age of 50 to ever deal with that. Or excuse me, above the age of 50 to ever deal with that. We'll get back to going to the bank with chickens
Right.
and eggs under the arm, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. I'd like to buy a firearm with some bacon bits. That's
it.
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bacon Bitcoin. That's what I want to buy it with.
It's a bacon Bitcoin. Oh, you know what? Bam, right there.
We can create. Hey,
Copyright it.
we need to
You just
create
did it.
we need to create
You
our own
just created it.
cryptocurrency. Call it
The
Bacon
bacon
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. There we go. There we go. You just solved the world's problems. Just like that. Here it is, episode 110, right? Just solved the
Yes.
world's problems.
Episode.
Just like
You
that.
know what? Bacon bits. I mean, bacon makes everything better.
That's right.
So it clearly
And
can make Bitcoin better.
Bacon Bitcoin makes the world go round. Mm.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, moving right along. Now we've talked. I don't know how many times we've talked about the pullout by U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. We've talked about what a hot mess it has been. We've also talked about the fact that, there are people on both sides of the aisle that were for us leaving Afghanistan, and there are people on both sides of the aisle who believe that we probably should have kept some troops there in order to kind of, monitor things that are going on there in Afghanistan. But the one thing that's been interesting about this is that people are pretty much all soundly in agreement that the Biden administration has completely flubbed, completely screwed up the whole plan of pulling out. And yet we have the mainstream media trying to rewrite the narrative and trying to basically say that Republicans, in particular House Republicans or congressional Republicans, are criticizing Joe Biden over the fact that we pulled out of Afghanistan. And the funny part is everything that I look, everything I look at, everything that I read is always started with from conservatives, starts with the caveat of, well, no one is disagreeing or complaining about the idea to whether or not we should move out. That we should have pulled out of Afghanistan. No one's disagreeing with that. The thing everyone has an issue with is the way in which the pullout was implemented. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah, listen, go back to even the Trump plan. Listen, and there are a lot of them being criticized for this. Go back to the Trump plan. The Trump plan was to have an organized military pullout. You doing so from either Kandahar Air Base or Bagram Air Base, and then leaving a stabilizing force behind, and all active operational missions and the training missions, and we continue to stay behind as a stabilizing force. What's a stabilizing force? That means when the Taliban decides we want to come into town and we want to take over the whole country, there might be 2,500 U.S. forces left there, which is just about enough for them to say, we should probably not do this because we're going to get the wrath of U.S. forces on us and the wrath of coalition forces on us. Let's take a look at Iraq. We have a stabilizing force there. It's a small stabilizing force, very small, but guess what? You don't see anybody rolling through town trying to take over Baghdad, do you? Because they know if anything happens in the green zone, they're going to get a world of hurt. They're going to make it rain steel on them, and it's not good things for them. This is what we saw happen around the world after every war. Take a look at World War I. We bailed out of Germany and said, oh, the Treaty of Versailles is good. We left some paper there. We left paper. We're good. We don't have to left forces. And under 25 years, we're back in major warfare. We left them there after World War II. Germany is one of the anchors of Europe. Look at Japan around the world. We still have forces in Japan. Look at Korea. We still have stability in Korea because of what we left behind, not this standard way of embarrassing pullouts in Vietnam, and now that we have in Afghanistan, just an absolute chaos, of understandings and incompetent military officials on the civilian side and the military side. We're left with being the world embarrassment of there's still 200 Americans or so wandering around the airport trying to find a ride home. But it's all right because President Biden said everybody was out as of 2 days ago.
Well, and it's funny because it reminds me of like the U.S. Olympic team made up of all-star, superstar, professional athletes who, simply because they couldn't get their act together, lose to, who gives a darnistan, right? in basketball. And that's the thing is that everyone's upset about how we pulled out. the fact that we should have someone there. And, a lot of people look at the war in Afghanistan or our being there as, oh, well, it was a failure because we didn't convert them to a democracy. That was never going to happen. But the goal of being there was to make sure that there weren't attacks on planned in Afghanistan or coming out of Afghanistan that hit us or hit our allies. And in 20 years, guess what we didn't have? We didn't have those sorts of attacks. I can bet you that now that we're fully pulled out, I would be willing to bet dollars to donuts that those attacks will start to resume. First against our allies, and then against us here in the United States. They've already caught two different individuals at two different times who are coming into America from the southern border who are on the terrorist watch list.
Yeah, listen. The attacks are going to start again, obviously, because we're going to allow them to organize or allow them to continue to focus. Now, their last fight was to fight against the forces there. Well, the forces are now gone, so now they can focus again on fighting outside the country.
Right.
They have the tools, they have the equipment, and now they have a great deal of coalition training as well. Craig, I don't know if you saw the helicopter, the Black Hawk helicopters flying around with we can't say who they were, but they had people hanging from ropes from these helicopters as they were flying around. This was not ropes, folks. If you haven't seen these pictures or videos, it's not ropes where people were rappelling down. These were like ropes tied around people's necks as they were getting thrown out and flying around. Although the media just came out, Craig, and said that they were not hanging people, that those people were there in harnesses. And I don't know where to get these neck harnesses that they evidently threw them out on. So it's just, they got
once again
people out of these helicopters
because the media is so set on the idea of covering for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
See, they're still in. We don't want another Republican. We don't want another Trump to be in the White House again. We don't want Democrats to lose the midterm election. So we've got to try and find a way to fix this. And the reality is, folks, you're not going to be able to fix this. The American public knows and realizes that Joe Biden is the reason why this is such a hot mess.
Exactly. Craig, we are watching the clock here, up against the clock. We're kind of heading over. I think perhaps maybe the next topic we push to tomorrow. I think that'd be a great topic to have during the interactive portion of Feedback Friday, and our parting shot actually matches the current story.
Well, exactly. You know what? I like the way you're thinking, Mike. So let's move that right along. Skip right over you, and we're gonna go straight to our parting shot. Now, the parting shot, it's kind of funny because it kind of goes with both of the groups of stories that we're talking about, both what's going on in Afghanistan, but also how they're coming after our Second Amendment rights.
That's right.
So you guys remember back during the campaign, the presidential campaign, when Biden was campaigning and he said that, look, I know exactly who I'm going to have come in and be the czar and help us to go and take people's guns. And so I figured we should probably have the same exact person or be the one that would go and take the guns back from Afghanistan. And that would be our good friend Beto O'Rourke. That's right. White House sends Beto to help Taliban confiscate Afghans' weapons. Now, you might note there from the byline, it is from the Babylon Bee, so this is not a real headline. I hate the fact that I have to actually tell some people that because there's still people out there who don't know who the Babylon Bee is. But this, anyway, I have not seen a story in a while that is as right on, a headline is as right on as this one.
Listen, Beto said he was going to come and take your AR-15s away from you. You're darn right. We're going to take your AR-15s away from you. Now, I hope Beto is over there in Kabul right now asking everybody for their AR-15s. Because I can tell you, Craig, without a doubt, there are no AR-15s in Afghanistan. There's probably 600,000 or so M16s and M4s. But guess what? We don't give the military semi-automatic single-shot AR-15s.
Right. Nope. Definitely not going to be confiscating them, as well as armored attack vehicles or some Apache helicopters. Definitely will not be confiscating those.
No. Try it, Beto, though. Go out and tell them. Let them know who you are. You're Beto O'Rourke.
Is that Beto O'Rourke rappelling from that helicopter?
He's wearing the new neck harness.
Yeah. He's wearing their new neck. He'll be wearing their new neck harness. Promise you that will be the case. Mikey,
he looks so comfortable and limp. It must be so comfortable.
Mikey, tomorrow, Feedback Friday. Let the folks know what's up with it.
Feedback Friday, we got for you here on the rundown. We have another 80% aluminum lower thing for America's thing that Beto wants to come take from you. Was that specific and vague enough at the same time?
Yes, it is definitely specific and vague enough. So you guys are going to want to tune in now. As we say, so some of you are watching us on multiple different channels, whether it's 2A News, whether you're watching us on Arms Room Radio or California Republican Assembly, CRA TV. Now, what you're going to need to do, though, is if you want to participate in Feedback Friday, because it's all about comments, right? You're going to need to go over to our channel. So you need to go over to the rundown.us, which will take you to our YouTube channel, or you need to look for us. 2A News Rundown is our handle on Facebook. You have to watch, and that's where you have to comment. If you're listening to us on Anchor, on Anchor.fm, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, once again, you got to go over. You got to be watching us. You have to actually be watching us live. That's 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. But that's where you got it. That's where you got to be if you want to participate and have a chance to win.
That's it. Go there. Do what he said. Like, share, subscribe. Check us out on the YouTubes, and you can win. You can get yourself some free swag tomorrow.
Exactly. So, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking, sharing, subscribing, and telling your friends about the rundown. Folks, this is the place to talk about 2A News and conservative views.
Hey, thanks for being here. We enjoy spending time with you.
We love you guys.
You guys are the best, man.